Hi everyone, I'm Willie, a front-end developer at Design Plus Code.
And I'm here today to introduce you to the movie booking app we will be developing. In this project, we will create an iOS app based on a beautiful UI design from Figma. We will incorporate interesting animations and interactions. The course consists of 3 parts. The first, which is the main focus of this tutorial, is the ticket interactions. Then, we will spend some time on the custom tab bar, and lastly, we will cover the app's navigation flow. To follow this course, you need to download the Assets folder, which includes the Figma template, the Xcode projects. The template includes pre-made components, images, colors, and data files. The source files will include the projects designed in Figma, so you can inspect the colors, typography, assets, and animations. You can also duplicate it in Figma community. By Surasith designed the entire UI and animations. Let's look at the template. The template has multiple folders. It contains pre-made components and data files. So here you see that we have UI, data, buttons, but also on the assets folder, I put all the colors, icons, images. Before starting the video, we'd like to thank Rive for sponsoring this video. Rive is an animation and design tool that lets you create interactive assets, integrate rich animations into any platforms, whether it's a website, app, or game. With Rive, you can design directly in the visual editor and import content from widely used design tools like Figma or Sketch. Additionally, you can collaborate in real time with your team. With its state machine, you can define how animations are triggered based on interactions and state. You have access to a large library of free animated assets created by the community, which you can inspect, use as it is, or edit to make your own. Make an account, try it out for free. Let's create a new SwiftUI file for the ticket view. So right-click on Views, New Files. Make sure to select the SwiftUI view. Here we're going to name it Ticket View. Let's start with a Z-stack, and on the Z-stack we're going to add the background modifier. So here we have background, and inside we will be using a linear gradient. Here the linear gradient takes a gradient, start point, and end point. So let's go with that. The gradient will basically be a gradient with colors. And the array, I already have it inside of the assets folder. So I will use the color. The first one is called background color. And the second one is background color 2. And make sure that all of this is inside a bracket because it is an array. The start point will be dot top and the end point dot bottom. Currently, you don't see the background color because we don't have any content. So inside the Z-stack, let's add a V-stack. The V-stack will have a spacing 30. And here, let's add some modifiers. So let's add a padding horizontal of 20 and also a frame. So the frame is max width dot infinity, max height dot infinity, and the alignment is dot top. So here, let's add a text view with mobile ticket. This one will have 3 different modifiers. The first one is a font, which is a title 3. Then we're gonna add a foreground color of white, also a font weight of bold. Then we have a second text. This one is a subtitle, and I will just copy paste the text. This one also has 4 modifiers. First of all, let's add a frame, and here I will put the max width to 246. Then the font to dot body, the foreground color to white, and to align everything, I will use the multi-line text align to dot center. Then we can work on the background animations. We will be using 2 circles with different colors and blur them. We will then move the circles around using a variable called animate, and the actual components is already made because it is a very simple shape. So let's start here on the Z stack. First, I will call my component, which is the circle background. This one, the color is green circle. And then I will have another one, which the color is pink circle. Remember, these colors are inside of the assets folder. We are going to start with a blur on both circles. So here, let's add a blur of 100 and on this as well. Then to move them apart and to change positioning, we're going to use the offset. Here, the X is -130 and the Y is -100. And on this one, we're going to use the opposite. So 130 and 100. To animate them, it is fairly simple. First, we need a state. Here, let's declare a new variable. And let's call it animate. This one is false. So here, what we're going to do is to use the animate as a condition. So if this one is animated, we're going to use a value of 30, else 100. And for the pink one, it's going to be the same thing. 30, else 100. And we can use the same technique on the offset as well. So here, animate is going to be -50, else 130. And here as well, -30 or 100, and here it's going to be animate 100 and animate 150. And now we have the state for each modifiers. So we can trigger the state by using the task modifier, which takes an action. So here I will use with animation dot is in and out, duration of 7 seconds, and here I will use the repeat forever. So the action is animate.toggle. So now you will see that both are moving. And the reason is because we are basically calling the animate toggle to true for a duration of 7 seconds. And now we have a beautiful animated background. So now we need to discuss about the ticket model. So let's click on data and ticket data. Basically, the ticket model is a way of assigning a type for each data. When you work with data, you need that. It like validates your data. So here I have the ticket model, which has an ID, image, title, subtitle, top, and a bottom part. So here, each model has this as data. So we're going to use this array. Let's create a new group and I will call it cards. Inside of cards, I will make a new file and call it ticket. To achieve the same effect as in the demo, we need to separate the ticket into two parts, the top one and the bottom one. So here I will take the text and replace it by a VStack. We'll basically join the top and the bottom part together. So let's add a frame, height of 460. I will use a font here for all the text inside, and then let's add a shadow of 10. So here I will use a first VStack for the top portion. So here I will add a spacing of 0. So let's add another VStack, and this one will be the top part. This one has a spacing of 4. The first element is a text, and this one is Thor. I will add a font weight of .bold, and then I have another one, which is Love and Thunder. This is the subtitle. Now on this VStack, I will add a padding, edge inset, so I can target the 4 sides. So let's start with the top, 20, leading 30, bottom 0, and trailing 30. Then I will add a frame, width of 250, a height of 325, and an alignment of top. We'll add a foreground color, white, add a background. So the background here is going to be a view, so an image, and the image is Thor. Here I will add a resizable modifier and aspect ratio to .fill. So right after that, we can use a technique to mask the shape of our top portion. So I will use mask, which is also an image of Thor top .resizable and aspect ratio .fill. Just indent correctly. All right. After the mask, the top portion of the ticket has some kind of like half border, nice cyan color. So let's add that with the overlay modifier. I will use a rounded rectangle with a corner radius of 40. And in here, I can use the dot stroke. Let's take the color first. So here I will use a linear gradient. The linear gradient takes a color's start point and end point. So here, let me define at the top. So var gradient is equal to an array of color. The first one is cyan. So just copy that and paste it 3 times. And here for the 2 other at the end, we're going to add an opacity of 0. And since I'm already at the top, I will just define the 3 other variables. So here we have state var title, which is Thor, subtitle, which is love and thunder, and the third one, which is top. So here, instead of using Thor, we can just use this variable instead. So I will use the title. It makes it more dynamic. So here, subtitle, this image top, and then here we can use the gradient. Here it's going to be from the top leading to the bottom trailing. And now you can see that at the top we have this very fine cyan line. You see like the solid color here, and then it just like phases out. So right after color, it's the style, which is a stroke style with the line width of 2. And now we can clean up the edges. Unfortunately, SwiftUI does not come with a specific corner radius. So if we apply a corner radius right now, let's say of 40, the problem is it will apply at the top, but it will also apply on the corners down there. This is why I had to go online and find a custom function, which is the rounded corners using the corner radius to have a custom corner radius. So here we can use the dot corner radius 40, and then we can add the corners. So here it takes an array. So dot top left and dot top right. And that way we can apply the corner radius only on the top portion and not on the bottom portion. Let's work on the bottom part. So right after the corner radius, let's create another VStack, but this one has a spacing of 10. So we need to use a dashed line. Unfortunately, also in SwiftUI, it doesn't come with a built-in dash line. So I had to go online, and in utils, I have a line over here. Hey, by the way, all of these functions and views, I also put the source on top. So here I can just call it by using a line, and then it uses a stroke, which is stroke style with a line width of 2, but also a dash of 7. So now you can see that we have the dashed line. Let's add a frame to contain it, width of 200 and the height of 1. We can also add an opacity of 0.6. We have an H stack, which contains 2 other H stacks. So here, H stack, let's add a spacing of 20 on this one. And then we have another one. So H stack, and this one is going to be 4, which contains a text, date. This one has a font weight, .medium, and a foreground color with color light purple. And basically we can add another text with the date, so April 23rd. And this foreground color is going to be black. And then just copy paste this one just right after it, just like that. So this one is going to be time and 6 p.m. And then we can just copy the big one. So this big H tag, just copy it and then you can paste it. So on the bottom part, let's change this one to row 2. And here it's going to be seats 9, 10. And then after this one, we can add an image, which is code. Now let's work on the styling of the bottom part. So this one has a frame with a width of 250, a height of 135 with an alignment of top. Then we can use a background, and this is how you achieve the blur effect, is by using the ultra thin material. So here, let's add a background with the image. So this one, I will just call it bottom because I will make a variable here. All right, and this image, similar to the top one, will have a resizable as well as the aspect ratio dot fill. Then you can just copy that and change the background for a mask. And then the last part of this portion is basically adding a height. Between the top and the bottom part over here, I will add a spacer. And the spacer will have a min length, and I will call it height. So at the top, we'll declare a new variable, but this time I will use binding, which is of type CG float. Now, if you want to see the preview, because it's going to give an error here, we need to give a constant value. So I will put 0 for now, and voila. Basically, the height value is for us to create this animation at the end. The next step is to create a new file for the tickets component, which will contain the 3 tickets and their interactions and animations. So first, let's go to the data and tickets data, and let's copy this. Then in your cards, we're going to create a new component, and I will name that tickets. So at the top, we're going to paste the data, and let's add state in front. Then I'll add a Z stack. So basically the Z stack will take the 3 views and stack on top of each other's. Then inside, let's use the for each method, which takes the array, which is tickets, and then it will take a ticket for each single data. And in here, you can see that it's using a text with the ticket.images, and it's stacking on top of each other. But for now, I will delete that and use a component that we haven't declared yet. So I will call it infinite stack view. And this infinite stack view will take tickets as an argument, which is the tickets here, but also the ticket for each ticket. Then the Z stack will have a padding as well as a frame. So for the frame, I will use the whole thing. I'm going to use the max width infinity, the max height dot infinity, and the alignment dot center. Then right at the bottom over here, let's declare the infinite stack view. So start with the struct. So here, let's use the binding tickets, which is of type ticket model, and also the var ticket, which is ticket model. And then we can have our var body some view, and in here I will put a vstack, and inside the vstack we have the ticket. So this ticket is basically our component that we just made. So the ticket takes all of these props. So the title, which is the ticket dot title, then we have the subtitle, ticket dot subtitle. Then we have the top, ticket.top, and the bottom, which is ticket.bottom. Here it is taking a height, so let me just declare it here. And I will use the height there. So it's missing a $sign. And I will add the type over here, so CG float. All right, problem solved. Then on the VStack, let's add a frame with the max width infinity and the max height dot infinity. As you can see, inputting the data, we can see that the last item of the array, which is Doctor Strange ticket, is on top, and we are supposed to see a Thor. So to fix this issue, we will create a getIndexed method function and use the value of that index. We're going to check the Z index of the views. So right over here, I'm going to create a function getIndex, which will return a CG float. And this one is letIndex is equal to tickets dot first index. And then we're going to return self ticket dot ID is equal to the ticket dot ID. Then we're going to check if it exists, and let's return the CG float of the value index. So when this is done, let's go up over here. So on the VStack, let's change the Z index by taking the double, then the CG float tickets dot count minus get index. And now, as you can see, we have the Thor on top and Scarlet, well, Doctor Strange at the bottom. So now let's add the drag gesture modifier to the ticket. But first, let's declare two variables. Here we need, first of all, the gesture state. Var is dragging. This one is a boolean. This variable basically tells you if it is dragged or not. And then the second state that we need is the offset. which is a type CG float. The offset is basically the value that we're going to put when we drag. So when this is done, let's go here and let's use the gesture modifier. Here, we're going to use the drag gesture, and the drag gesture has 3 different methods. First one is updating. Updating first take the gesture state. So here is going to be is dragging, and for the body, I will use in and out states. So we don't really need all of them, just use out and then in. That's it. And here we're using the out is equal to true. Right after that, we have the on change, which is, I believe, the most important one, because this is the method that gives you all the changes via the value over here. So first, we're going to declare a variable to store the translation. So this one is equal to the value dot translation dot width. And now that we have the value of the translation, we're going to make sure that only the first card will be draggable. So translation is equal to the ticket dot first, and this is an optional dot ID is equal to the ticket dot ID. If this condition becomes true, then we're going to use the translation, or else it's going to be 0. Then the translation is equal to is dragging or not. Then we're going to use translation, else 0. And then with animation, and here you can use any kind of animation that you want, but I really like the is in and out. So here with a duration of 0.3, we're going to set the offset, which is our variables over here, is equal to the translation. The third method is the on-ended. The on-ended basically takes care of what happens when you release your finger. This one has the value in as well, and with animation dot is in and out of 0.5, we're going to set the offset to 0. And the last is to set the offset to the X value, because we only want to change the horizontal axis to the offset. So now let's test it out. So when I drag right or left, and if I release, it goes back in the middle. You can change the positioning of the second and the third ticket by using a bunch of conditions, which we will get the index, and if it is equal to the first one or the second one, then we can change its values. So here, let's use a rotation effect, and we're going to say get index. If it's equal to 1, which is technically the second card, we will use a degree of -6, else it's going to be degree 0. Using the same technique, we're going to select the third card. So get index is equal to 2, dot degree is equal to 6, else degrees set to 0. And of course, we're going to use the scale effect. So the scale effect will be a bit different, because the first card, which is the Thor, is the right size. We want to reduce the sizing of the 2 cards in the back. What I'm going to do is get index. If it is equal to 0, which is the first one, then I will put it to 1, else 0.9. And from there, we can change the offsets of the 2 other cards. So here it's going to be X, get index 1, -40, else it's 0. And the offset X, get index, if it is equal to 2, put it to 40, else 0. And this is how you create this layout. So if I move left or right, you can see the 2 cards in the back. To make the draggable ticket smoother, we're going to add a rotation effect when we drag from left to right. So right at the bottom, we're going to create another function, which we will call it get rotation. This one will get an angle, which is a value double, and we will output double as well. So let width is equal to the UI screen.main.bound.width. And basically this is how you get the full width of your screen. Then we're going to get the progress, which is basically the offset divided by the width. And let's return a double, which is the progress times the angle. Then above the rotation effect is going to take init degrees and get rotation with an angle of 10. So now when you swipe left or right, you can see that there is a slight rotation. At the moment, swiping left or right has no effect. So let's add some functionalities to the right swipe with an interesting technique. So here, let's create another function. So when we swipe right, the goal is to basically just remove the first card and put it at the back. So here I will call it remove and add. So this function will take a dispatch queue.main.async after. So basically what dispatch queue main async after means is that it will execute whatever that is inside the code, but after a certain amount of time. So here the deadline will be .now plus 0.1. And what we're going to put inside is, first, let's update the ticket. Then we're going to take that updated ticket .id is equal to the UID to a string. Then we're going to take the actual array, so tickets.append this new updated ticket. And then right after that, we're going to remove the first. So with animation, and this one I like to use Spring to use the tickets.remove first. And then on ended, what we're going to do is to declare the width. So basically the width is the width of the screen. So it's going to be UI screen.main.bounds.width. And then we want to know if the user swiped right. So here, swipe right is equal to the offset is higher than the actual width divided by 2. So here inside your animation, we can do if swipe right. First of all, we want to set the offset to the width so it goes completely right. Then we're going to call the remove and add, or else we're going to use the offset to 0. So let's test it out. If it goes left, it doesn't do anything. But when it goes right, you can see that it removes the first card, but it goes in the back infinitely. Next is the left swipe action, which is very similar to the right one, except the fact that we're not adding the ticket back to the array. So at the bottom over here, let's create another function and I will call it a remove ticket. And this one is with animation.spring and just ticket.remove first. That's all. So at the top here, we can declare another variable for swipe left, which is equal to minus offset is higher than half of the width. So here, the conditions is going to be a bit messy, but basically it is if swipe left, we're going to use the offset is equal to minus width. Let's remove ticket, then else, and this is where we're going to add this one. So else, if swipe right, we're going to offset is equal to the width and use the remove and add. Then here, else, and offset is equal to .0. Now we can remove this one. So let's try it out. Right, it adds back, and left, it removes them. Let's add some feedback to the interactions. So when we swipe right, let's try to change the z-index of the second card to be on top of the first one. So it's going to be on the z-index over here. So at the beginning, we're going to add two conditions. First of all, we only want the first one. So get index is equal to 0, but also if the offset is higher than 100, then we're going to use this one, but minus 1, else just copy paste this. So basically what I'm saying is that if the first card is swiped and it is over 100, we're going to put the second card z-index above this one. Just like that. The left interactions is even simpler and a lot cooler. So here on the onChange, what we're going to do is to use the height value is equal to minus offset divided by 5. And on the ended, we're going to do the same thing. So the height is equal to .0. So if you remember, the height variables is used here on the spacer between the top and the bottom portion. So here, when we swipe left, it cuts the ticket in half. Then just go back to the ticket view. So in your views, ticket, and then right after the text, we can add our tickets with a padding top of 30. And there you go. Now we can tackle the second part of the video, which is the custom tab bar. So we will begin by declaring all the cases for the tab bar. In data, right click and let's create a new file. This one is going to be a Swift file and let's name it tab data. So let's declare tab, which is of type string and case iterable. Then the first case is home and this one is equal to the name of the asset. So in assets here for the icons, you can see that I have 5 icons for each tab. So home, it's going to be home. Then we have a location. Then ticket. Category. And lastly, profile. Then in content view, we are going to declare the current tab. So here state var current tab, which is of type tab, is equal to home. Let's remove the image and the text and let's use the native tab view. This one takes a selection and the content. So selection, and this one is going to be the current tab, and then for the content we're going to use it that way. Inside tab view we will set the 5 different views. Because we only have the ticket view for the moment, we will be using basic text. So text, and this one let's set it to home. Then we have another text for location, and because this one it is the ticket view and we do have the ticket view, we're going to use it here. Then we have another text for the category and the last one for profile. Then let's set the spacing of the vstack to 0. We're going to assign a unique value for each view using the tags. So the tags of the text is going to be tag tab.home. The location will have a tag.location. The same for view. Now you can see that in the preview we can select the different tab button to change on the tab bar. This is using the native tab bar. So to disable it, right below the current tab, we're going to use init, and then let's call the UI tab bar dot appearance dot is hidden is equal to true. So now let's try again, and it doesn't work anymore. So now let's customize our custom tab bar. Right click on the UI folder and new file. Make sure to select the SwiftUI view, and this one let's name it custom tab bar. Then in your content view, right after the tab view, import your custom tab bar right here. Inside the custom tab bar, we have to declare a current tab binding on the component so we can link it to the current tab state in the content view. So here, binding var current tab is of type tab, and here what we can do is use the current tab dot constant dot home. Then in content view, make sure to link the current tab to the current tab here. And the layout of the tab bar is horizontal. So let's replace the text by an H stack, set the spacing to 0, and over here let's add the frame modifier. So the max width is .infinity, and just so we can see the content, let's add a background red. So inside, what we can do is use the for each method to loop through all the tabs. So here, for each, then the for each will take the tab.allCases, and for the ID, it will be the raw value. So here we can select each tab in, and first, let's use an image to display them. So we're going to use an image, and each image will be the tab.raw value. This is basically the string that we set inside of the tab data. So for each images, it's going to be .rendering mode, .template, and the frame max width to .infinity, and the foreground color .white. To make sure that everything works properly, let's replace the preview and let's use the content view instead. What it does is that it takes the content view as a preview. So if we change anything from the tab bar, it will show on the screen. So next, let's put the functionalities. So here, instead of using the image, we're going to use a button. And like I said before, the button takes the action and then takes a label. So let's just copy paste the image inside the label. Let's remove that. And inside the button, we are going to use with animation dot is in out without duration. And then we're going to set the current tab is equal to the tab. So in the preview, we can now select the different screens. So now we're going to take care of the design of the tab bar. At the top, let's declare a variable that will contain all the colors for the gradient of the tab bar. So background color is equal to an array of color. The first color is purple. Then we have light blue, and the third one is pink. Then just command click on HStack and embed it inside a VStack. So on the VStack, we're going to add a frame with height 24, and then let's add some paddings. So top 30, and then we can add the background, which will be using the ultra thin material. For the background, we will be using the linear gradient with colors. It's going to be our background color. The start point is leading and the end point is trailing. And now we can remove the background red over here. With that done, the tab bar looks a lot better. To know which tab that we're currently in, let's adjust the selected tab's offset. So on the image, let's put a offset modifier and let's change the positioning of the y-axis. So if the current tab is equal to the tab, it's going to be -17, else 0. So now if we select the other ones, you can see that the icon is going up. Next, we're going to add the background circle, which is located behind the icon. So right after the frame, we're going to add a background modifier, but this one will have an alignment dot leading. And the background can take a view. So let's use a circle with a fill dot ultra thin material. Then let's set a frame width of 80 and height of 80. And then you can see that we have the circle here. Next, let's add a shadow. The shadow will have the color and the radius. The color will be dot black with an opacity of 0.25. The radius is 20, x 0, and y 10. And now it looks a lot better. So it is only missing the small shadows, like the inner shadows. And to achieve that, we're going to use the overlay modifier. And inside the overlay, let's use a circle and the trim from 0 to CG float 0.5. So it will use half of the circle. And then we're going to use the stroke with the linear gradient. And at the top, let's declare another variable for the gradient circle. So this one will use the color cyan and just copy paste that 3 times. So the first one will have an opacity of 1. The second one over here will have an opacity 0.1, and the last one is 1 as well. So back in the code, let's call the gradient circle starting from the top, ending at the bottom. We have the style, which is a stroke style with a line width of 2. So now we can see that it is at the bottom. So right after the stroke, we're going to use a rotation effect with an angle of a 135. And it is a bit outside of the circle. So to make it inner, we're going to set the frame to 2 pixels below the actual circle. So 78. You can see that if we select other tabs, the background circle does not follow the selected tabs. So we need to create a function that will return an index. Then, using that index value, we're going to calculate the offset of the circle. So at the bottom, let's declare a new function for getIndex. This function will return an integer. We're going to use the switch statement with the current tab. Basically, if the case is home, we're going to return 0. Then if the case is dot location, we're going to return 1. If the case is dot ticket, we're going to return 2. Do the same thing for the categories, return 3, and profile, return 4. So now that we can return the index of each tab, we will create another function to return the position of the selected tab by dividing the width of the tab view by the amount of tab. let's create another function, which is indicator offset. This one takes a width, which is the width of our tab bar, which is a CG float, and it will return a CG float. And basically, we're going to declare an index, which is a CG float value of our get index. And if the index is equal to 0, we're going to return 0. Then let button width is equal to the width of, so basically the width of the full tab bar divided by the amount of tab. So here divided by a CG float of tab.allcases.count. And at the end, we're going to return the index times the button width. Here, we are missing an equal. So with this function, we're going to calculate the offset. So at the top, instead of using the VStack, we're going to change the VStack by a geometry reader. And the reason is the geometry reader let us access to the geometry value inside it. The geometry allow us to calculate the width of the current element. So let width is equal to the geometry dot size dot width. Then the actual circle over here, right before the overlay, let's add the offset, and we're going to change the X value with indicator offset, and the width is the actual width of our tab bar, and for the Y value, it's going to be -17. And you can see that the circle goes up, but not the inner shadows. So copy, and we're going to paste this here as well. Now try to select the different tabs, and now the circle follows the selected tab. There you have it. We just created our own custom tab bar. Next, we will enter the third part of the video, which is the flow of the app. Basically, any app needs multiple screens. So we're going to create multiple screens and create a navigation between one screen to another and create a flow. So we're going to work on the home view. Right click and new file. It's going to be a SwiftUI view. So home view. On this view, it's going to be very similar to the ticket views. Let's remove the text, and we're going to use a Z-stack. Then on the Z-stack, let's set a background. The background is a linear gradient, and the colors are background color and background color 2. Then the start point is top and the end point is bottom. Then we're going to add a VStack with some content. So let's start with a text, which is choose movie. This one will have a font weight of .bold, the font of title 3, and a foreground color of white. On the VStack, let's add a frame with the max width .infinity and the max height .infinity. To position the title at the top, let's add the alignment to .top. And for future views, we're going to set the spacing of the VStack to 0. In terms of animation, it is very similar to the ticket view. So let's go to the ticket view, copy the two circle backgrounds, and then add it here. And let's add the state, and it should be working. Below the text, we have a custom search bar. So in UI, let's create a new file, SwiftUI view, and I will call it custom search bar. And the layout of the search bar is horizontal. We have an image, a text field, and then another image. Let's replace the text by an HTAG. Then inside, we're going to add an image view, and this one will be using the system name. So F sub symbol, so magnifying glass. Then we have the text field. The text field is an editable text interface provided by SwiftUI. So here, text field, and text field takes two arguments. The first one is the title, and then we have the text. The title is basically the text for the placeholder. So here, I will put search, and for the text, there is a binding. So at the top, let's create a new state. Let's call it search text, which is an empty string. And here, let's insert our search text. Then we have another image. This one is my.fill. So in the preview, you can see that we have the two icons and also the text field. So on the H stack, let's add some design. For the paddings, I will use the edge inset so we can add paddings to all sides. Top is 7, leading 8, bottom 7, and trailing 8. Then I will set a font dot headline. The background is going to be ultra thin material and the foreground color to white with an opacity of 0.6. And then we can add a corner radius 10. Let's go back to the home view and right after the text, add custom search bar. So here, dot paddings, let's use the edge inset. Top is 30, leading 20, bottom 20, and trailing 20. When you use a text field, make sure that you add the ignore safe area on the wrapper. So go to the content view and here I will add a ignore safe area and specifically for the keyboard, or else otherwise the keyboard from the search bar will push some content up. So now let's talk about scroll views. The scroll view is basically a container that displays views vertically or horizontally. And right after the search bar, we have a vertical scroll which contains 4 horizontal scroll views. So here we are going to declare the scroll view, and the scroll view takes the axis first. So the first one is vertical, and then it takes show indicator, which we will set to false. Then inside add a VStack so we can lay all the horizontal scrolls. Because the horizontal scroll is basically a component, let's make a new file into UI. And we will be reusing this component 4 times. So I will call it scroll section. The scroll section consists of a title and then a horizontal scroll view. So let's change the text for a VStack. Then the first view is a text. And this one is going to be now playing. This one will have a font modifier of dot headline, a foreground color white, and a padding horizontal of 20. And then there's a scroll view, which the axis is horizontal with a show indicator to false. Inside the scroll view, we need an H stack, and let's add a spacing of 20. And then we're going to use the for each method to loop through data to display the array of images. For each takes data. Go to your poster data, and here just copy paste poster 1. At the top, let's declare a new state and just paste this one. Let's remove the one. So for the for each, we're going to assign posters for the data. Then we have the ID, which is .self. Here, instead of using the whole data of the posters, we only need to get the index because each one is the poster with an index. So I'm going to use image, and here we're going to set posters with the specific index. So here it says, so inside of posters, we need to add the indices. So let's check, and there you have it. So for the image, we're going to add a few modifiers. The first one is .resizable. Then we're going to set it inside a frame with a width of 100 and a height of 130 with a corner radius of 20. And now you can see that we need to add some spacing at the left. So on the H stack here, let's add a offset x20. That way we can scroll, but at the right side, it is missing some space. So we're going to add a padding .trailing of 40. And now we have a well-working scroll. Here, instead of using the now playing as a text, which is technically there, we're going to use a state for the title. So now playing, and then we can replace the now playing by title. And on the VStack, use alignment.leading. So let's go back to the home view And here we're going to use our newly created component, which is the close section, which takes a title and a poster. The first one is now playing, and the posters. Let's go to the posters data, and we're going to copy these three, and let's put it at the top. Don't forget to add the state in front. So the first one will take the poster one, and then we can just basically copy paste it 4 times. Just like that. The second one is coming soon. This one is poster 2. Third one is top movies. This is poster 3. And the last one, we can just use favorite and keep it at poster 1. And now we have a working scroll view. So on the VStack, let's add a spacing of 20. So it gives a lot more space. And then at the bottom, we're going to add a padding bottom of 90. So that way, when we scroll, it leaves some space for the custom tab bar. With that done, you can close it and go to your content view, and we can replace the text home by the actual home view. So now we have multiple screens and a custom tab bar to navigate between them. The last part of this course is the flow. So for the purpose of this guide, we will define a navigation link as any links in a view that takes the user to another view or section within your app. A navigation view is just what it sounds like. Any view within your app that contains at least one navigation link. The goal here is to click on one of the cards and it will bring us to the booking view. To do that, first, let's take care of the navigation link. Go back to your scroll section, and in your for each, we're going to use the navigation link. The navigation link takes 2 arguments. The first one is the destination, and the second one is the label. Very similar to a button. So let's cut the image and paste it back in the label. And for now, the destination, we're going to add a simple text with booking view. So let's go back to content view. And in preview, if you click on any cards, it doesn't do anything for now because we need to wrap the parent inside a navigation view. So here, the VStack, click on it, and we're going to embed a navigation view. Now try again, and you see that each card will bring us to the view presented in the scroll section. In views, create a new file, a SwiftUI view. I will name this one booking view, and the booking view will start with a ZStack. At the end, I will set its background to color, background color 2. And this one will have an ignore safe area. Inside, we will start with an image, and the image is booking. The image will have .resizable, .aspect ratio, .fit, also a frame with a max height of .infinity. This one will have an alignment top. Then, to achieve the fade out effect here, from bottom to top, first, let's declare the gradient. This one is color, background color 2. And we're going to copy paste this 4 times. But only the first one will have an opacity of 0. So right after the image, declare a VStack. The VStack will have a frame, max height .infinity, and this one will have an alignment .bottom. Inside the VStack, we're going to use the linear gradient view with colors, which is our gradient. The start point is top and the end point is bottom. Then we're going to add a frame with a height of 600. And this is how you achieve the faded effect here. Next, we're going to work on custom navigation bar. So remember when we clicked on the card and it was bringing us to the navigation link with the booking view in the middle. At the top left, we had the native back button. So we're going to remove that and apply our own custom one. Right after the VStack, declare another VStack. First, let's set a frame with a max height of dot infinity, and the alignment is dot top. I will go ahead and put a spacing of 0, and inside I will set an H stack, and this H stack will contain, first of all, the circle button, which is a custom component that I created right here with an action, and I will put it to empty for now, and an image, which is the icon. Here I will set arrow dot left. So it is currently here in the middle. Let's add a spacer, and then we're going to set a second circle with an image of ellipsis. And then on the H stack, I will apply a padding edge inset of top 46, leading 20, bottom 0, and trailing 20, just like that. Add some text. So right after this, I will add a first text with Dr. Strange. I will set the font to title 3, the font weight to bold, the foreground color to white, and also the padding dot top to 200. Another one, in the multiverse of madness. I will set this font to title 3 and the foreground color to white. The third text, which is basically a subtitle, I will just paste this text over here, and then the font to dot subheadline, foreground color to white, and the padding to 30. And the fourth text, which is select date and time. This one I will set its font size to dot title 3, font weight to semi-bold, and the foreground color to white. In this part, we will basically code a bunch of buttons. I will skip a lot of the logic because we don't have a lot of time, but basically it is 2 rows of buttons. The first one is the date buttons, and the second one is the time buttons. So we're going to start by declaring 2 variables. The first one is the selected date. This one is false. And the second one is the binding selection. So basically the selected date is the variable that we will be using as a condition, but the binding selection will basically always stay false. And this is just to save some time. So here at the bottom, declare a H stack for the first row, and this one will have an alignment of dot top with a spacing of 20. Inside, we're going to use the date button, which is one of the pre-made button here. The date button has multiple states, but we are only going to use a few ones, such as the weekday. This one is Thursday. The numbers day, 21. And the last one is the is selected state. And for now, I will use the binding selection. So let's copy this and paste it 5 times. And then we're going to change the data for all of them. The only one that we're going to change is basically the middle one. So instead of using the binding selection, here I will use the selected date. This one will have 2 more different arguments, which is the width of 70 and the height of 100, because this is the middle button. Right after that, we're going to add the action, and the action for this one is with animation dot spring. We're going to set the selected date dot toggle. That way, when you click on it, it changes colors, but the other ones won't. Right after that, we're going to set the different paddings. So for the ones at the extremities, I will set dot top to 90, and the one at the bottom as well. And for these 2, I will set the padding top of 70, and in the middle one, which is around here, I will set the padding dot top of 30. And this is how you achieve this kind of layout. Using the same technique here, I will use another H stack, And here we will put the time buttons. The time buttons is a component that is already made. Because it has a very simple layout, we will use a H-stack to position all the buttons horizontally. Then we will add the specific paddings to each view. And on the middle one, we will add an action and the selected hour boolean. At the top here, add another state, but this one is selected hour. So here on the H stack, I will set the alignment to top and the spacing to 20. And inside, we can use the time button, and this one will have only hour and the is selected argument. So first, let's set it to 4 o'clock, and this one will use a binding selection. Similar to the date one, let's copy paste 5 times. And on the middle one, I will set the width here. So the width is 70 and the height is 40. This one will also have an action with animation dot spring, and we will set the selected hour dot toggle. Compared to the other one, here I will add a padding dot top of 20. The middle one won't have any paddings, and this one in the middle will have one of minus 20. So if we click on them, only the middle will work. Oh, here I forgot to change the binding selection to the selected hour. So when you click on the middle, it works now. And now finally, we have the reservation button, which is right after this one. So we're going to add a large button for the reservation. And this one is pretty special. So the goal is to not make it appear unless the date and the hours are selected. So to do that, we're going to first call the large button, and then I will set a padding of 20. And then I'm going to start with the offset. We are going to set the Y with the condition. So if the selected date and the selected hour is true, let's set it to 0 or else 200. So now you can see that the button disappeared, but when we select the two buttons, the buttons appear with an animation. So the next step is basically to be able to click on the reservation button to bring us to the third screen. To do that, here, we're going to use the same technique. So the navigation link, which takes the destination and then the label. I will put the large button inside the label. And for the navigation link, I will put a text for now. This one is the seats view. So don't forget to embed the Z stack inside a navigation view. So go to the top, command click on the Z stack, embed in a navigation view. And also, because we're using a custom navigation bar here, make sure to put the navigation bar back button hidden to true, because you don't want to show the blue arrow and the back native button. So let's try it. And voila. Now, let's test it with the other screens. But first, go to the scroll section and replace this text by the booking view. So now in content view, we have the home view, the ticket view, but now when we click on the card, it goes here. The problem by using a custom navigation bar is that the buttons doesn't do anything. And now this one will go back, and this is the native one. So let's add a functionality to the back button. In booking view, at the top, basically, Apple has a dismiss method coming with SwiftUI. And to use it, we need to call the environment, and this one is going to be .dismiss, var dismiss. So this method, we can use it on the arrow left button, just like that. So if we go back to the content view and we try again, now it is working. So now let's work on the last screen, which is the seats view. So in view, new file, seats view. This view is very simple. It is basically everything that we've learned before. So let's replace the text for a VStack. The VStack will have a spacing 0, and we're going to add our HStack, and this HStack will contain the same navigation. So first, circle button, the action is empty, and the image is arrow.left. Then we have a spacer, but here we have another text. So let's add a text, choose seat. I will set this font to title 3, the foreground color to white, and the font weight to bold. After this, I will set a spacer, then another circle button. This action is empty, and the image is the calendar. This HStack will basically have a padding top 46 and another padding of horizontal of 20. And then let's set the background. So on the VStack, I will set a frame of max width dot infinity, max height dot infinity, and the alignment to top. So we can push our navigation bar at the top. Then to see everything better, I will set the color, background color, and this one will ignore safe area, but as well as putting the navigation bar back button hidden to true. We are going to use the environment dot dismiss to use the dismiss function on our back button. We have a basic image. So right here, I will set an image view with front seat, add a padding top of 55, and then on the design, this image is basically glowing. But SwiftUI does not give you a native modifier for that. So in utils, I found this function to make your view glow. Back to the seats view on the image. Here, I can use the glow modifier, which is a custom modifier. So the glow will have a color and a radius. The color is basically color pink, and I will set a radius of 20. Then we have another image, which is the seats dot frame. I will set the frame height to 240. I will add a padding top of 60 and a padding horizontal to 20. The reason why we're not doing this whole thing and just using an image, it's because first, it is not the focus of this course, but also it would have taken a lot of time. And then the next part is basically the status UI. So first I will set an HStack. I will set the spacing to 20. And basically the status UI is a pre-made, very basic UI. It shouldn't be very difficult. So I will use it 3 times. On the second one, I will change the color to color magenta and the text to reserved. On the third one, it's going to do the same thing. So this one will have a color cyan and the text to selected. This whole HStack will have a padding top of 60. Next, we're going to work on the bottom part. So right after the HStack, I will use the ZStack. This ZStack will have an alignment of dot top leading, and basically inside we have quite some UI. I will start with a VStack. This VStack will have an alignment of leading and a spacing of 30. Then in that VStack we have multiple HStack. So this HStack have a spacing of 10, and basically it contains multiple views. So the first one is the image. The first image is from system name and it is calendar. After is a text with April 28, 2022. And then we have a circle. The circle has a frame of width 6 and height 6. Then I have another text with 6 p.m. And the thing is, this UI is basically repeated twice. So we're going to copy that, put it right below. And this image is ticket.fill. This text is a VIP section. Instead of the time, it's going to be seat 9 and 10. Now copy this one, And the last one only has an image and the text. So we can remove the circle and this text. So this icon is cart.fill. The last text is total with the pricing, so it's going to be $30. Then on the Z stack, this is where we're going to set the actual design. So I will set the frame of max width dot infinity, max height dot infinity, the alignment dot top leading. Then I will use clipped the foreground colors to white and the background dot ultra thin material. Then I can add a padding dot top of 50. And then on the V stack, we have to add a padding 42, and I will set the font to dot sub headline. Next thing to do is to set the animations and the circle background just behind this background. So at the top, let's set a state. And very similar to the backgrounds, each views here on the V stack, I will be calling 3 different circles. So the first circle has a frame with 200 and the height to 30. This one will have a foreground color of color purple. Then I will blur using the animate to 70 or else 100. This one's offset is on the X, animate minus 100 else 20. And on the Y axis, animate minus 20 to 20. Then of course, I will use the task with animation with a is in and out, duration 7 seconds, use the dot repeat forever to set the animate dot toggle. So here in the back that there's a very faint purple, but I will just copy paste this component 2 more times. The second circle, the color changes to light blue. The first value of blur is 50 and then 100. The offset is 50 to 70 and the Y is 70 to 30. And the last one over here, the color is pink and the animate is 70 to 100, 150 to 170, and here a 90 to 100. And just like that, we have a beautiful animated background with the bottom sheets. And similar to the reservation button, we're going to only make this part appear if we tap on the seats. So at the top, I would declare a new variable for show button. This one is false. And on the image, so over here, I will use the untap gesture with animation dot spring to set the show button to true. Then the bottom sheet over here, I will set the offset Y show button to 0 or else to 50. That way, when we land on this page, we don't see the button yet. And when you select your seats, now you see this. The last UI is basically the buy button here, which will bring us back to the home view. So right after this, let's use the round button, which is a very basic UI. I have it here pre-made, just here. So basically the round button will be shown over there. I will embed it inside a H stack. The H stack will have a frame with a max height dot infinity. So now it is centered, and then we're going to put a spacer to put it to the right. So in SwiftUI, it is very common to have an embedded navigation link inside another navigation link. But there's no way to click on this button and to return to the home view. If you use the dismiss function, it will do the same thing as the back button and it will go back to the booking view. So after searching online, I've seen that in utils, there's this navigation utils. I put the source on top, and basically this function, what it does is it brings you back to the root navigation. So here on the round button, I have an action argument, and basically this action will take the navigation utils dot pop to root view. So now when you go to the content view, you see that the flow is completed. So here we can navigate between different tabs. When you tap on the card, it goes to the booking view. When you select, you go to the seats. So here on the booking, I will change this text for the seats view. So here it goes to the seats, and when you click on the image, it pops this off, and then you can go back, or you can buy and it goes back to the home view. This is the end of the video. I hope you liked it and learned a lot with me. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Design Code channel, and I will see you next time.